All right, let's talk about collusion. They like to make it sound like it's something that has to be actively, you have to find some active connection and so on and so forth. But collusion can happen is if you have the people with the same mentality uh, doing things to help others with the same mentality. You don't need an explicit, thing where somebody's saying, "Okay, so we're gonna do this, and then you're gonna allow it to happen, and we'll just kick it around between us, and we'll make sure to get it done, and it's to advantage us." That's not. It doesn't need to happen. And a great example was a day ago on the Hills Rising. And by the way, I'm not endorsing the Hill or the Rising. Unfortunately, YouTube again. This is where I come together with the collusion thing. Is there was no explicit collusion between YouTube and the Hill, but they have a tendency to push this, and that's because they'll say algorithm, but let's face it, it's people with the same mindset writing the goddamn algorithms. So, anyways, the Hills Rising had an interview with a guy named David Dan, and he talks about how that that basically useless $1,200, uselessly ineffective $1,200 that they're gonna give that they're supposed to give a lot of people, and that's the thing. The way they phrase it and everything else, there's a lot of people that won't even get $1,200, which will basically be useless. Basically, it's money that you're gonna just hand back to the people who are doing the colluding. So, um, check out the Rising's interview with David Dayan, and that was about a day ago. And David reported, and some others and some other channels picked it up about how the USAA, which is the bank that the service U.S. service members use, was basically taking the $1,200 to pay uh, for collection. So if there was a negative balance or some sort of collection tied in, then they would take it. Now, supposedly they stopped, but the fact that they did that, it, that shows collusion, and it's because the Treasury Department didn't put it. So, like, if you get like I get a Social Security check, well, you can't do that with a Social Security check. But the Treasury Department didn't do that. Congress didn't stipulate that that can't happen in any shape or form. So the Treasury didn't do that. Didn't secure it and make sure you can't. The banks can't take it, or a debtor, uh, uh, a debt collector could take it. So, or a company or whatnot. So, and then there's further. and you should check out that interview. That's the sort of collusion I'm talking about. And that is why we need to stop thinking in terms that these people that are in the Treasury Department, the IRS, the Congress, whether it's state or federal equivalents, we got to stop thinking of politicians and officials in government and the obvious collusions that are happening within the legacy establishment media. We got to stop looking at them as anything but outright criminals. There's also a great one that just came out. I just saw from David Dole from Public Citizen, where they list over a dozen countries that don't have healthcare tied to their employment. And so the title of that video you should look for is "Dear USA, no other country does this." And so Public Citizen did a story on that, and David covered it, and he covered it great. He shows you the list of countries and that have basically a single payer. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're paying attention to the single payer in a lot of these other countries, there are dozens of ways they fuck over people. Mainly in who doesn't get who gets exempted or some other trick that they've made so that they can screw you over. Or how they're using or how they're siphoning the funds that are put into single payer, so that they can still make money. The UK is now trying to now push for a US style healthcare. So this is why I talk about criminality. This is why I talk about mafia, because they are all operating like mafias, like organized crime. And until we Americans wise up and start to see it in these terms, and until we take forceful action, not these protests where we basically go out there and say, rah, 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 please do something for us. No, we should be out there. We should be showing force. We should be projecting force in numbers as well as in weapons, and say, no, we want you out, all of you, the entire thing. We need to clean out the entire house. Everybody, from local to state and federal, get the fuck out. Walk your asses to jail. And that includes the police who are doing basically there are a number of police acting like highwaymen, bandits and thieves. That's because it's been greenlighted from the top. That's because that greenlighting has brought in people who have that mentality. They're acting like organized crime. And they're all doing it under legitimacy of wearing a badge or a title or a label of legitimate legitimate people of companies and businesses and corporations. This is how we have what we have, where the biggest criminals are basically doing a daylight robbery, and it's just over and over and over and over and over again. It happens. You know, there's a band I like. I pay attention to. It's Korn, and they have a song called "Right Now." So if you don't know Korn, check out that song, because this should be a national anthem for the public. We should be voicing the hatred that the song evokes, because that's the way we should look at it. We should hate these people. We should want to see harm done to them. Otherwise, we'll have people like AOC, Bernie Sanders, doing going along with the criminals of Pelosi, Schumer, McConnell, and so many others. They're all criminals. Don't get me wrong. They're all criminals, but there's the criminally negligent, those who aren't stepping up to the plate, those who aren't explicitly coming out and saying, "No, you're all fucking criminals. You're all fucking you're all completely and utterly fucking over everybody, and you don't deserve a position in representative servant government." That is what Bernie Sanders should be doing. That is what AOC should be doing. That is what Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ro Khanna, and all these others should be doing. Is it progressive? Is it right or moral to allow criminality? This is why burning it down must be the end goal. There are so many reports of right-wing ideology and basically what the code for right-wing is criminals, and they're putting them into the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the police. You got ICE, you got the DEA, you got the FBI, and all these. They're putting right wingers. Basically, they're criminals to be law enforcement, to serve and protect. Except that's exactly what they're not doing. They are not serving and protecting. And it doesn't matter what your skin killer is. That is one thing I always say that I've constantly pounded about. Doesn't matter what your skin color, what your religion, how affluent you are. I mean, there's this old reported story about a governor who was a Democrat, and the Republican criminals basically put another somebody who had a legitimate label, and they set him up and they basically had the guy put in jail. So this is why I say affluency and labels don't matter. If you are bucking them, if you are doing things to stop their criminal behavior or impede them, you're gonna go to fucking jail, or you're gonna be killed, or you're gonna be whatever. And only one thing correlates to that, and that is organized crime and mafias. And the thing about the uh, uh, U.S. mafia and organized crime, who have legitimacy in the world, in the view of the U.S. and the world, is that they are spreading that ideology all over South America, all in Central America. They've done it in Mexico, and they like to, the left media likes to talk about the new government in Mexico. But the thing is it's not out in reality. It's not showing. There are still dozens upon dozens of reporters that are being killed. Dozens upon dozens of people who are activists for women's rights, for healthcare, for child rights, for corruption, and that's what they're being killed left and right. Those running for positions as mayors and Congress, they're being killed left and right. So I'm not really sure that the reports coming out that there are that the leftists that they're trying to clear out. They're trying to be a representative servant government. I'm not sure that it's all that true. Yeah, I just saw a commercial for Energy Transfer Partners. You know, the one that was hiring cops and sheriffs out in was it South Dakota, where they were where the where the indigenous were protesting the pipelines and so on and so forth. That made big. That's organized crime. These people are it's like, oh, just because they're not shot, and some of them were shot and killed, but just because they're not shooting them with bullets, they're doing with pepper spray, they're doing water cannons, they're doing with the quote unquote rubber bullets, which actually do a lot of damage. And there's plenty of examples of rubber bullets. And when you're doing it in freezing weather, and you're using water cannons, or pepper spray, which if you have bronchial issues, it's gonna deeply impact you. Not only that, but it screws with your eyes, can do a lot of damage to your eyes for your sight. When they're sending attack dogs, this is organized crime. They just keep coming. The parade of crimes being done under this legitimacy, this false legitimacy, is only being allowed because we're not out there putting out force projection and saying, "Get out! I fucking hate you. You're criminals. I want you dead. Get out before you force me to fucking kill you. Walk your asses to jail." That is what we need to do. We are complicit in allowing them to continue. We should be doing the same thing with those cops that are going around shooting people. And even though there's video evidence of them committing a crime, most of them don't. 99%, not over 99% of them don't get anything done to them. And even if they do, it's ineffectual because they can go and get hired somewhere else. The town over, the next town over, shit like that. Baltimore, Maryland. Prime example of where the police are acting like fucking the mafia's leg breakers. Chicago, the same sort of shit happens in Chicago. The same sort of shit happens in California. The same sort of shit happens in in New York, Massachusetts, you name it. And by the way, this isn't COVID. If you've been paying attention, you should know that I've been like this for years, and it's because of a chronic bronchial issues, which isn't helped with my smoking. But we need to take a position of intolerance and a willingness to go out and defend ourselves in the only meaningful way. And if we are not willing to do that, then we have no one else to blame but us for allowing the high criminals to just get away with it. That's partly the reason why the Roman Empire went down, because you had those in government who were basically organized crime, doing the same sort of shit that they're doing now in this country and in the West and in many other countries. It's not enough to be out there with hitting pots and pans with something. It's not enough to be out there chanting in unison or something. No, what it has to be is we need to have force projection. We need to draw a line and say, this is what a country represents. This is the country. We are the backbone. We are the foundations. We are the machine and mechanics that keep our country moving forward. There is no freedom when the criminals run things because we allow it. Fear is natural, but to allow fear to overrule and control us, and to find some ignorant propaganda, and what I always say, when we ignore, we become ignorant, because that is the root of ignorance. Ignore is the root of ignorance. We can't think in terms of I have to support my my wife, my children, my family. How do we support them if we do not stand up when we keep allowing things to happen that continually hurts our children? Where is the love in that? Where is the responsibility in that? Where is the caretaker role in that? We are demonstrating our complete and utter lack of caretaker, of our love. If we do not, we have, this whole new trope that, the older Americans are the ones basically giving Biden the position that he's in the elections. And if that's true, then older Americans have basically the older Americans should have just come out and shot their own youth, their own children, because that's exactly what it is. That's because they ignore, thereby they're promoting ignorance. Ignorance is a lie, and lies on the level where politics plays is a crime. You are committing a crime upon yourself and those that you say you love, that you care about, that you are a caretaker. You committed a crime. It's a crime of negligence. And using crime of negligence kind of makes it, but there is no question to it. You committed a crime. And it's not people that it's not people that don't vote or can't vote, because they like to make it sound like, there's a lot of people that don't vote. But the thing is, we can't vote because there's so many things that they do because they're criminals. They do it to make sure that they can't be overthrown. They do it in hundreds of ways to make sure that they stay in power. And there are real villains, but they're all villains. They're all villainous criminals. We should be out there projecting force and telling them, not demanding, but telling them, get the fuck out. Walk your asses to jail and stay there, or we'll fucking kill you. That is what we need to do.